Hello everyone and welcome to another night of TGP1 Racing for season 38. It's rounds 15 and 16 from the Zandvoort circuit in the Netherlands and the circuit Monza in Italy, and just as we're on screen we see Corey having a spin in his Aston Martin on a flying lap in this session. We've currently got about 6.5 minutes to go. I was just on board with Corey, having a look to see how he gets on in the early stages, but he's just ruined that opportunity for me, having a spin there. Very tricky to do and very easy to do on that corner. Quick rundown of the championship standings. We have Jack Hickman leading the championship on 214 points, followed by Kieran in second place on 204. Jovial Manti is in third on 148. Then we have Dan the Man in fourth on 140, and Shane in fifth on 128. So, joining me in the commentary box tonight is the Soft Cop. So, how are you doing tonight, Softy, and what are your thoughts going into these races?
Yeah, it's good to be back after a week out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight. It should be some two good races. We've got Zandvoort, as we can see on screen, and then Monza as the second race, and it's going to be an interesting night. You've got I think 10 points separating, as you said, like Jack Hickey and Kieran, and Jack Hickey P2 while Kieran's in P13 at the minute. So it's going to be very interesting these last 5 minutes because Zandvoort, track position is very important.
It is indeed. So we're going to see Ride on board with the Confessor as he just starts a flying lap, and I think he's the highest up in the field on a flying lap at the moment. So take us through the tail end of this lap, Softy.
Yeah, so you're going for this bank left-hander. In real life, they do take a wide line. On this game, it doesn't work. Just the physics is actually spun it, unfortunately. He's lost his wheel. So there we go. He's no higher than fourth there. But as I was about to say, that left-hander, you don't want to go up high like real life because the physics just don't gain you any time. You want to take a tighter line for better traction.
And meanwhile, we have, this is a surprise to me actually, Dom Smith, TGP2 Championship leader, currently in this session, currently running in P7. There's some questions being asked by some of the TGP2 field over this one, including myself, who's second in the championship.
Yeah, to be fair to him, he's in P7 on pace at the minute, so I definitely think he's going to be moving up into TGP1 next season, or at least he should be with that pace, really. So yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a few drivers. Most of the top contenders are currently sitting in the pit lane, but we have got a few drivers out on laps, including Jean in the Aston Martin, the AlphaTauri. Not even the AlphaTauri, the Alfa Romeo. Would get there eventually, third time lucky, as we see him go through turn 13 and through the Auri line dyke curve. That is turn 40 to finish a flying lap. And what's it going to be? He's heading to the pit lane, actually.
We've got a bit of a lull in the session at the minute. Everyone's coming into the pits. Everyone's on in laps. I think JD's probably the only one at the minute that's actually on a flying lap, and it did say he was 3 tenths up on his time. Currently in P7, so he's displaced.
Well, I think he's just finished a flying lap, Softy.
Oh, fair enough then. It did say 3 tenths up, so the game is lying. Good one, Goat is. And yes, he's 1.3 down. So yeah, he is on an in lap. So tell a lie. Nobody at the minute is on a flying lap, it seems.
Right, no one's on a flying lap. We've got Mr. Chiapelli's on an out lap in that McLaren. Of course, they've unveiled a new livery today, McLaren, that they're going to use in the Singapore Grand Prix and the Japanese Grand Prix. And what are your thoughts on that livery, Softy?
I don't mind it. I do think I'd probably say it's slightly better than the current one they've got. I just think that the current one is a bit too mishmash. I mean, I can say that for the new limited edition one that they've got coming, but I don't know. I think the new one, I'd say it looks slightly better than the current one, to be honest.
Right, so we're going to see Mr. Chiapelli winded up to start a flying lap in the McLaren, the only car on to a flying lap as it currently stands. Everyone's filtering out the pit lane towards the end of this session as everyone's going for their final run. So we see Chiapelli into the Tarzan corner, that is turn number 1, and he's got decently round there, a little bit squirrely on the exit as he flings himself into turn 3, Softy.
Yeah, and here we go then, is what line's going to take through here. Nice and tight, you want to keep it in. Bit wide on the exit, but he should get good traction. There's a fry on the left there, so that's keeping out of his way. This curb on the right-hand side, even if I speak English, can catch you out. A lot of these curbs can. For this long right-hander, try and take as much speed through it. Be careful with this curb on the left, and also this curb on the right. You don't want to touch it, because it can unsettle it. And then obviously, as well, coming through this technical section. The whole circuit is technical, really, and he's doing so well so far. He's not really wringing the neck as such, but end of the day, he's in P9 at the minute, so it's not too bad for him. But yeah, here we go. Then you want to ride all this curb on this right-hand side, or as he did, completely miss it. It does cost you time if you don't, but I think it depends on your setup, really. And here we go. Then second to last corner, avoid this curb on the right-hand side. You actually want to avoid sometimes that curb on the left because it will spit you out, but he's done all he can. You want to actually stay around the middle of the road out of that final corner because the bump will affect your car, and it actually goes up to P7.
Yeah, meanwhile, we've got Kieran on a flying lap, just coming towards the end of the lap. He's about 3.5 tenths up on his previous best and heading towards turn number 11 and 12, this tricky chicane section towards the end of the lap. That's slightly banked turn number 12, then you've got 13 and 14 coming up. So round 13, very tricky corner, very easy to lose the back end on the exit. And then round the RE line dyke curve, 31 degrees of banking round this corner, open the DRS on the exit. And what's Kieran going to do? This is his final flying lap, and he's got up into P4. Jack Hickman also on a flying lap towards the end of this session. Just got a couple more corners to go, Softy.
Yeah, and he's 2.5 tenths up by the looks of it, if it is right. So this should put him in pole position quite, I'd say, comfortably, really. But here we go then, 9, 10, and there we go, 10.7. So a mid 7, high 7 is what it looks like for pole.
Yeah, meanwhile, we've got Glock coming around the final couple of corners now as well, just going through this final corner. What's his lap time going to be? Is he starting a flying lap or finishing a flying lap? I can't really tell. He is finishing a flying lap. He's done a 10.9 and he stays where he is. Got Dan the Man next, coming around the final corner as well. It's all getting very busy at the end of this session. DRS is wide open for the Ferrari driver. He's coming across the line. He's used all his deploy, but it doesn't matter because he's gone pole position. Cam popped himself into third there as well, and Corey is just on a flying lap as well.
He is, yeah. Corey's actually, it looks like he's actually down apparently, but I don't know how true that is. I don't think it is true because I've just gone on board with him. He's only got 22% ERS left, so he's half a tenth down currently, and he's actually spun it, and there we go. I think his setup is quite nose, pointy on the nose, so unfortunately for him, he's actually retired on the circuit. So I know that's usually frowned upon and a penalty given for that. So there's actually Kai's gone across the line and lost it. So he is not improving on P5, but it's not the end of the wood for him.
Yeah, so we see Glock coming around the final couple of corners. He wasn't on a flying lap before, but he definitely is this time. I could see him using the ears coming through these final couple of corners. What's his lap time going to be? Coming across the line, DRS is wide open, coming out turn number 14, the RE line dyke curve, and he's gone to pole position with a 10.5. Glock is on pole in Zandvoort, Softy.
Yeah, fair play. He did what he needed to. Save it until the last second where you can, which is what you need to do. But yeah, it's been an interesting little qualifying session as New Zealand Cam does retire. And actually, New Zealand Cam was facing backwards for the last, I think, 2 minutes of this session. So yeah, but that does appear. I think is that everyone.
Yeah,
I think that is everyone.
Oh,
so,
CJH actually covered across the line now. He's the last car finished lap, and he's gone to the back of the grid.
Yes.
But that is it. Everyone has completed their laps. Glock is going to be your pole sitter here in Zandvoort with a 10.5, about 2 tenths quicker than anyone else. Quite an impressive lap there from Glock.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with yourself, I've not really done this circuit in multiplayer on this game, so I wasn't able to give sort of what an accurate pole time, but I did say to Dan the Man prior to this session I think it would be a mid-10, and yeah, that is exactly what it was from Glock.
It is indeed. So here is a full rundown of the results. Glock is your pole winner here in Zandvoort for round number 15 of the season in the Williams with a 1 minute 10.572. Dan the Man lines up on the front row alongside of him in the Ferrari. Then we've got Jack Hickman, championship leader, in third, Cam in fourth, and Jovial Munty rounding out the top 5. Then we've got Kieran in sixth, the Confessor in seventh, Corey in eighth, and Phil Bardrell in ninth. Mr. Chiapelli rounding out the top 10. Then we've got Jake Davis, John, Jordan, Dom Smith in 14th, then we got Court in 15th, Matt Tubos in 16th, CJH in 17th, and then Wet Lemons and Aiden at the back of the grid with, I believe, qualifying bands carrying over from last week, so they'll be making their way through the field. So getting ready to go. Final preparations will be coming up shortly for this 18-lap race around the Zandvoort circuit, this 4.2 kilometre, 2.6 mile circuit, 14 turns. Real life lap record is a 1 minute 11.0. And what are your opinions on what's going to happen in this race, Softy?
I think some close battles. I think it's going to be very hard to pull away naturally because the circuit is so technical. I'll say that, but I'm sure probably someone will pull away, and that's going to be that. But a key thing with this circuit is ERS management. As we saw, as Wet Lemons has sadly disconnected there, but ERS management very hard. As the Confessor's actually disconnected as well, so that's 2 disconnections. We're going to get any further ones, hopefully not, and it just does appear to be those 2. But yeah, ERS management very difficult round here, so you want to save it as much as you can.
Yeah, so yeah, ERS management very difficult, like you said there, mainly because there is no real heavy braking zones on this circuit. You've got turn 11, but that's turn 11 and turn 1 are probably the only heavy-ish braking zones, but they're still medium speed corners, those corners. So not a lot of saving going on there. Final preparations getting ready to go here at Zandvoort for round 15 of the season, the Dutch Grand Prix. So the lights coming on. We've got 2, 3, 4 lights. 5 lights are on here at Zandvoort. The lights are on, and the lights will be out any second now, and they're out indeed as they get a decent start away at the front. Jovial Manti once again in that AlphaTauri getting a very strong start. It's going to be side by side between Dan the Man and Glock going through the first couple of corners, and I think Glock's going to come out on front on the exit. Yes, he does. Glock leads from Dan the Man, Jovial Manti up into 3rd, Jack Hickman in 4th, and then Cam down in 5th place. As we see Glock on those medium tyres as well to start with. There's been a bit of an incident down the back. Jake Davis is already retired from this race. There's a yellow flag in sector 1, but that is all there's going to be, as Dan the Man's looking very feisty coming through these first couple of corners. Round turn 7 they go, and in towards turn number 8, and it looks like Glock is going to maintain the lead for the time being, Softy.
It is, yeah, and I think with Glock starting on those mediums, he's in the perfect position. He's on that faster strategy overall, and if he can keep Dan the Man behind him, it's going to be looking good for him. But Dan the Man needs to get ahead. If you've got someone who's on the medium tyres and you can't get past them, you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage, and it looks like Glock at the minute is holding his position. Yeah,
Glock is holding his position indeed on those medium tyres. Dan the Man's on softs, Jovial Manti softs, Jack Hickman softs, and Cam is also on mediums. And most of the lower half of the top 10 are also on medium tyres. There's only a few drivers up near the front on those soft tyres as we see him going on to lap number 2. Glock getting the fastest lap, but that's not really a surprise considering he started on pole position. So Glock leads, Dan the Man second, Jovial Manti's third on the first lap of the race, and I think Phil Bardrell's getting very close to the back of Cam for 5th and 6th.
He is, yeah, he's on those soft sides as well, so he'll be wanting to try and get ahead of Cam. I do think Cam overall is a faster driver than Phil, but this is the difficulty with this circuit. There's not really any overtaking spots unless the car ahead makes a mistake other than into turn 1, and I think a lot of people will be having that higher wing to just to get round the circuit a little better. So it's going to be difficult as CJ H actually passed Dom Smith. So Dom Smith actually now down to P13 and now P14 as Aidan Griffins does overtake him. So Dom's not having a very good few corners, it seems, at the minute. But he is a TGP2 driver racing tonight. So I think he'll just be trying to get that experience for probably tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's what he'll be looking to do indeed. Gain some extra experience, gain a bit of advantage over his championship rivals, which I'm not happy about and I'm not bitter at all about as one of his championship rivals. As we see him go around the first couple of corners, Jack Hickwood getting very close, fairly close-ish to the back of Jovial Manti on those soft tyres, but there is a bit of a train forward behind Dan the Man, I want to say, as Glock's just pulled out enough of advantage up the front, but the DRS has enabled this lap, and the DRS train will probably form as well, Softy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think you need a DRS train round here as there's a yellow flag as it looks like Wet Lemons. No, Matt Tibos has actually spun at turn 1, so terrible race for him yet again, unfortunately, as Mr. Chiapelli is in the pits for a wing change as well there. But yeah, I don't even think you need a DRS train round this circuit purely because it's so hard to overtake. And I think, as I mentioned pre-race, ERS management I think is going to be the biggest key in at the minute. Glock's on 48%, Dan the Man's on 64%, so he's got that slight advantage. But again, Glock is on that slightly better strategy in terms of race.
Yeah, he is indeed. I think the closest battle on the circuit really up the front is the battle between Jack Hickman and Jovial Manti over the final podium spot. Dan the Man is starting to claw back in on Glock and Jovial Manti is dropping back. I wonder if there'll be any overtakes this time round as they go through the Ari Line Dyke curve and on to the 4th lap of the race. The DRS is enabled this time round, and is there going to be any moves? I don't think anyone is quite close enough, are they? No, not quite. Let's switch back to the front as Dan the Man is getting closer and closer to the back of Glock, Softy.
He is, yeah. I think Dan the Man's really having to push hard now, and he's actually used more of his ERS now. It's 59% for Dan the Man, 51 for Glock. So I think he is using that ERS a bit more now. But just a quick one as well. Corey momentarily spun as we actually see Wet Lemons right behind Corey further back, and he's actually thinking about it. So I don't know if Corey's got any damage, but Wet Lemons is really trying to get past him there. But yeah, Corey did sadly spin on that last lap. But at the minute, it's a bit of a procession, I'd say. No real overtakes just yet.
Yeah, Zandvoort is a difficult circuit to overtake on. You've only really got your opportunities into Tarzan at turn number 1 and this chicane at the end of the back straight. The 2 DRS zones are your only real opportunities on this circuit. You could maybe try and move into 7, but you have to have big balls for that one. As we see Glock, he's got about 5 tenths of a second lead, could make that 6 tenths as they head towards the DRS zone. I wonder if Dan the Man's still going to be close enough. Speaking of further behind, Jack Hickman is definitely close enough this time around to have a move on Jovial Manti. He's going to have the DRS wide open. He's going to be using the ERS. Jovial Manti goes defensive. Jack Hickman to the outside. Is he going to be able to make the move stick? No, he's slotted in behind. He's going to have to wait his turn once again. Kieran, fastest lap of the race there. And he's down in 7th place. So those medium tyres are starting to come into their own, Softy.
They are, yeah. There's a yellow flag, so I think that's just slow car, Mr. Schiappelli, obviously there. But yeah, and actually for Kieran, he's on 36%, so he's actually got less than the people around him in terms of ERS. But New Zealand Cam in P5, right behind Jack Hickey and Joe Manti, 92% ERS, so he's saving his ERS and keeping that pace very well. And on top of that, he's on the mediums, and while the 2 ahead are on the softs. So I'll be expecting the pit stops to probably be around lap 7 or 8 for the softs to go on to the mediums there. So yeah, Cam's doing what he can. I don't think he's got the pace to sort of catch Dan the Man and Glock ahead, but I think he's definitely in the fight for this final podium place.
Yeah,
Kieran's ahead of Phil now.
Yeah, I was just about to say that Kieran is been let past by his teammate Phil there. Team orders in effect at Alpine as we get towards the end of lap number 6, and once again Jack Hickman is very close to the back of Jovial Manti, a little bit further back than he was last time around, so see if he gets close enough this time around to make a move into turn 1. And Tarzan, I don't think he will. No, he hasn't, and that is that. So this 3-car battle now is the third as Cam is all over the back of Jack Hickman as well.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, the softs are probably starting to struggle. He's actually thinking about going around the outside if he can. Not quite as the Confessor is P15.
He's going to switch back.
A much better exit, so he's going to be using his ERS there, and so is Jack Hickey. I think Jack Hickey will probably hold it unless New Zealand Cam does try an audacious move around the outside, and it actually lets him go. I think a bit of contact there, ever so slightly. So Jack Hickey settles in behind New Zealand Cam, but that was a pretty tense moment there. That
was pretty tense indeed. It's not a section of the circuit you want to be going wheel round. Corey is out of this race, unfortunately, as he spun in that far section where we just seen Cam and Jack Hickman go side by side. But I think those mediums are definitely coming into their own now, as Jack Hickman thought better of it, as Cam is probably the better opportunity at this current time to get past Jovial Manti on lap number 6 of this race here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, he is. Obviously New Zealand Cam doing what he can. He's on 51% now, so he's actually lost most of his ERS to get that move done, while Jovial Manti has now got more ERS. So, but it's going to be who's got the better straight line speed. I think Jovial Manti is running slightly less downforce, as I think Wet Lemons
Jack Hickman's in.
Sadly spun.
Jack Hickman is in, and Cam's gone for the dive into turn 1. They're going to be side by side on the exit. Jovial Manti using the camber to his advantage round that corner and staying in front for the time being. Is Cam going to swing it down to the outside? There is the parked car of Matt Tibos on the exit of turn number 3. That's not ideal for the drivers there, but it looks like that Jovial Manti is just about held on for the time being.
Yeah, obviously he did what he needed to there, and now New Zealand Cam's got only 19% ERS, so he needs to be careful now, because this battle is going to cost him, because as soon as you run out of ERS, it's so difficult to gain it back. So, you want to be careful, and unfortunately I think the better strategy is probably saving all your ERS until the last few laps when everyone else has used all theirs. Then it's going to be easy overtakes, but it's easier said than done at the minute, as Dan the Man is still half a second behind VFL Glock. But it'll be very interesting to see when Dan comes in. It's going to be this lap, is it going to be next lap, or is it going to be a few laps time? Is he going to try and long it out or try and pit with Glock? It's going to be an interesting one, but yeah, we're going to see, I'm sure, very shortly. And Dan the Man is in the pits, and he's coming in this lap trying to undercut, but I think Glock's done what he can at this moment, as so is Jovial Manatee as well in the pits.
Jovial Manatee also picked up a 3-second time penalty there for multiple track extension warnings there. There's a strange place to pick it up, actually. So it must have been the penultimate corner, and they're a bit delayed on our screen because it came up on our screen just as he was entered in the pit lane. So it's a bit odd place to get it.
I must say as well, Johners and Aiden are going at it.
Yes, they are indeed, as we see Sean and Aiden battling towards this is a battle for P4 and P5. Sean getting closer and closer to the back of the Red Bull. Strong start from this Alfa Romeo driver as he gets close and starting to get stuck in the battle. ERT Jordan's not too far behind, and they've got Court and Dan the Man not too far back. Dan the Man is about 7.5 seconds off the back of his teammate at the moment, but he's made his pit stop already and onto those medium tyres. Be interested to see what's going on in this mid-pack. Is Sean going to make a move on Aiden? I think they're both on the medium tyres. I'm just going to have a quick look now. And yes, softs for Aiden. Sorry, softs for Aiden. So that means that Aiden is going to be pitting very shortly, and that will release Sean. But those medium tyres are definitely starting to come in. They're starting to come into their own to battle up number 5 there, Softy.
They are, yeah. I mean, what people need to consider as well as Aiden is in the pits then is that the medium tyres, they do take a bit longer to get up to temperature as Aiden has spent in the pit lane. So unfortunate him for that. But yeah, the mediums do take a bit longer to get up to temperature. You can up the tyre pressures pre-race. However, you then need to consider is when you go onto the soft tyres, they're probably going to then be overheating. So not really what you want, as Jack Hickey has overtaken Phil. As I think Phil may have made a mistake there, but. He's right behind Jovial Manatee now with Jack Hickey again.
He is, and this is the net battle for P3 on the road. Jack Hickey and Jovial Manatee once again resuming battle after their pit stop. Not really looking towards any moves at this current time. Dom Smith is retired from the race, which means he will not be getting any more practice for tomorrow, which would be good for me. Thank you very much, Dom. As we see Jack Hickman looking all over the back of Dan the Man, Jovial Manatee, as we see, I'm having a Crofty moment there, as we see him go round the couple of corners, as we see him go through towards the back straight, through turn number 10, and he's getting very close to the back of Jovial Manatee. Not
Kai
really
looking up the inside or the outside of New Zealand Cam for second is Kai, and that's P2 for him.
Yes, it is Kai round the outside of Cam. Quite easily done on the DRS. I'm guessing he had more errors to Bird as well. Kai up into P2. Cam back down to P3 as drivers are pitting further down the field. Jack Hickman looking closer and closer on the back of Jovial Manatee. Come out behind him again during the pit stops. He's going to use the errors. He's going to use the DRS. But again, he's not going to be quite close enough to make a move this time around. No, he isn't. But he's getting very close into Tarzan corner.
He is, yeah. They need to be careful though, because they are going to cost themselves too much time if they start battling, and that may help Kieran ahead in P2 at the minute. So he is yet to make that pit stop. He's only 15% ERS, while the people around him that he's battling are slightly more. So, but Kieran's got that clear air now. He's ahead of New Zealand Cam. He just needs to do what he can. And hopefully for him, he should come out ahead of Jovial Manatee and Jack Hickey if they cost too much time for each other.
Yeah, that's the important factor. How much time are these two losing, getting closer and closer to the back of each other? Not really any defensive driving, though, from Jovial Manatee, and Jack Hickman's getting towed along, so I don't think there's going to be too much lost on pace, maybe for Jovial Manatee, but definitely Jack Hickman is definitely getting held up now as they head towards this end of the second DRS straight once again. And Jack Hickman, once again, closing in on the back of the AlphaTauri driver in front of him. A little bit further back than he has been in previous attempts. So I don't think he'll be able to go for a move this time round. Court is in the pits, and that releases Dan the Man a little bit. As we see, Jack Hickman just not close enough really to make a move into the Tarzan corner, Softy.
Yeah, it's a very difficult circuit. I think we actually saw it. I think it was last season with me and I think Kieran actually. I was leading. I was saving my ERS. I think he burnt a lot of his ERS, and he just wasn't able to get close enough on that straight to make that overtake. He did get close, but it was never quite there. And this is what I mean. Because you're in such high downforce, everyone is. It makes it so much harder to get that advantage, get that that overtake done, because you're waiting for the person ahead of you to make a mistake, really. But it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't always happen. Jack Hickman, once again, just following. Definitely got more downforce on the car, I think, than Jovial Manatee. He's really getting closer and closer to the back of him through the twisty sections of the circuit. But as soon as there's a bit of a straight, Jovial Manatee's got a bit more slipperiness on his car, little less drag. And unfortunately, Jack Hickman just can't really make a move. And which is kind of hampering his race. Cam is into the pits, so we're going to see where he comes out compared to the rest of the field and see what this stop is like. Sean's in the pits, Jordan's in the pits, but it's important to see where Cam rejoins, and is he going to be anywhere near the battling duo of Jovial Manatee and
I think he's going to be ahead of them.
Well, we'll see now as he comes out the pit lane. They're going to be coming around this tight pit exit, and I think he's just going to come out in front, but of course his tyres are going to be cold as well. He's got about half a lap to warm them up, and Jovial Manatee and Jack Hickman are going to be breathing down this Lek any second now on those cold tyres, but he is on the softs, so they do warm up fairly quickly, don't they, Softy?
They do, yeah, and obviously I think now the fact that he's on those softs, they are fresher by 4 or 5 laps as well compared to Jovial Manatee and Jack Hickey behind him. I think now, this is looking good for New Zealand Cam. Jovial Manatee and Jack Hickey, or should I say Jovial Manatee's lack of pace for Jack Hickey, blocking him and stuff, it's cost them more than it needed to. And actually Cam's half spun this. That's going to give Jovial Manatee a bit of a run here, but yeah, I think he'll be fine. And he's actually only got 6% ERS as New Zealand Cam.
Yeah, so he's used a fair bit of ERS. He is on the soft tyres though, but he's got to have Jovial Manatee and Jack Hickman breathing down this neck. Meanwhile, Glock and Kieran up the front have pitted. We're going to have a quick nose at Glock. He's just leaving the pit lane now. Where's he going to rejoin compared to Dan the Man? He's just leaving the pit lane now, and I think he's just about... He's going to be very tight. I think Dan the Man is going to be side by side with him on the exit. Yes, he is. Dan the Man just going to be side by side, and he's just about going to hang on. Yes, he is. And Glock got very close to the back of him. Yeah, got very close to the back of him around that couple of corners there. And yeah, Glock lost a bit of ground, avoided contact. Kieran's jumped all that battle, and now he's right in front of the train that is battling for third. So Jovial Manatee, the big losers, Jovial Manatee and Jack Hickman, shall I say, the big losers from that battle, in the battle for third position.
It is, yeah. Jack Hickey now down to P6 while his championship rival was P3. Not a massive difference in points, but I think because these guys are so close in performance throughout the season, every point is going to count. But yeah, Dan the Man actually has jumped VFR Glock. He is on the opposite strategy though, is Glock, so he is now on those soft tyres, and he does have much more ERS to burn. So I think VFR Glock can just use those tyres a bit more, push a bit harder, let just the grip do a lot of the work, and then once you get that on that straight and you're close enough to burn all your ERS that you've got, because you've got more than the car ahead, and if Dan the Man's not too careful, he's going to be derating down that straight, which is going to make that move a bit easier.
Well, Cam has just set the fastest lap of the race on those soft tyres. He's getting closer and closer to the back of Kieran. Kieran back in third place at the moment. Jack Hickman down in sixth. So he gains, I've just got to do some quick maths here, Softy. He gains, it's 10 points difference, and he's going to be, what is that? That's going to be 7.6 points gained. So it'll be 4 points the gap after this race as it stands at this current moment in time. As we see Glock getting very close to the back of Dan the Man on those soft tyres. So it looks like it could only be a matter of time before Glock, as he gets a massive slide coming out of that corner there and on to the second DRS straight on this circuit. Lost a little bit of ground there, but he is still closing in quite quickly on Dan the Man.
Exactly, he's got 4.5 laps to do it really, so I think he's got those laps to be able to overtake, so he doesn't need to rush it too much, don't make any silly mistakes, and I think he'll be able to do it. But again, it's a question of whether or not he's going to have that straight line speed to do it, but I think he is closing quite a lot, and here he is, he's burning all of his ERS to get this move done, and it's going to be a very easy move because Dan is derating down that straight.
Yeah, it is Glock. Very easy move. Sets the fastest lap of the race there, which is immediately taken off him by Kieran, who's now got those softs going in this race and is pulling away from Cam. Big slide. Spun, then. Big slide, and Cam goes past because of that big slide coming out the Tarzan corner. Cam up into P3, Kieran down to P4. Once again, he's starting to feel a bit of the pressure. Last week, all he had to do was finish right behind Jack Hickman, and he would have gained some points on him, and he ended up spinning out at second Stavlo and putting his title hopes firmly, making a dent in his title hopes. But this time around, he's lost a position to Cam, so no harm, no foul. Hopefully he'll be able to get that position back for his title hopes.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time, I think Kai and Jack Hickey are probably both thinking, right, I know I've not got the outright pace whether that's setups, whether it's lack of playing the game, whatever the reasons are. I think they're both thinking, right, all I want to do now is just finish ahead of the guy that I'm fighting for the title. And to be honest, I don't blame him. That's something I would do. I do always try and win, but then I think I'm not going to risk anything. He's nearly lost it.
Slide,
Then
it's a spin.
He's spun. Kai, what are you doing? You're just losing this championship by silly and stupid mistakes. So that's going to be more points lost to Jack Hickey. So Jack Hickey, once again, sort of gets quite lucky that his title rival is making those mistakes. And I think I've said all season, Kai is probably faster than Jack Hickey, but he's nowhere near as consistent. He's making these silly and stupid mistakes. You can't be doing this in a title fight. And, it's in the end, it will cost him his title if he carries on.
But it feels like that Kieran's always driving at 100%, going flat out, ragging the car to the absolute edge every lap of the race. Well, Jack Hickman in the race kind of holds a bit back, drives a little bit within himself, and that means he's got that consistency to get to the end and keep picking up these points, which is crucial in a championship run.
It is, yeah, and that's... I guess this is his first... I don't know what other... how many other leagues he's in, if he's ever been in a position where he's fighting for a title before. If it is his first time, mistakes aren't actually going to happen because you're not, you're under that pressure that you're not normally under. So, unfortunately for him, it is, you don't want to be making those mistakes. It does happen, but when you've got someone who is, a TGP champion in Jack Hickey, they've been in that position before, so they've got that mental advantage over you. You may have the speed, but in the end, if you're crashing and costing yourself points while the other person isn't, you've only got yourself to blame. And that's 2 weeks in a row now where he's not been under any pressure from behind and he's made a mistake and lost points.
Yeah, it is indeed. We've got Jack Hickey getting closer and closer to the back of Jovial Manti, but again, not been able to find a way past. Meanwhile, further down the field, CJH and Aiden. CJH on those soft tyres, all over the back of Aiden. Closest battle on the circuit, the most likely for an overtake. CJH very close to the back of Aiden there. John's not too far behind of the Confessor, who's had a poor qualified. He only qualified down in 7th, and his race hasn't gone that much better. One of the winners from last week in Hungary is down in 10th place. Just a quick look on the penalty updates, and we have 3 seconds for Jovial Manti, 5 for Phil Bardrell, 5 for Aiden, and CJH just sent it down the inside of Aiden there, and that's not going to work at all there, Sunshine, I'm afraid. Sent it down the inside, not really an overtaking opportunity, and he's ended up coming out as the loser from that one.
Yeah, end of the day, it's his own fault there. You try and dive up the inside when, especially around certain corners here, the other person is going to turn in. It's very easy to make this mistake, but, CJH, a lot of people do think he's over-aggressive when he doesn't need to be. And to be honest, that's what's going to happen. You're going to cost yourself a lot if you make those moves. And I think he is on a number of penalty points, so he does need to be careful with this sort of stuff because you're just going to cost yourself by over-ambitious moves, as the Confessor is ahead of court. And the Confessor there, nearly losing it.
Yeah, and that means that ERT Jordan's having a sniff on the back of these drivers as well. But meanwhile, we're going to turn our attention towards the front of the field. Glock, supreme performance, did the alternate strategy of starting on the mediums and going to the soft tyres. And he's just got a few more corners left to go in this race. And once he got past Dan the Man on those soft tyres, it was basically game, set and match for him. As we see him going through turns 11 and 12 for the final time. Just got 2 more corners to go here at Zandvoort in that Williams. Round the penultimate corner. Now he's got the RE line Dyke curve. The banking playing in his favour of that 31 degrees of banking. And he's got to cross the line to win round 15 of the season at Zandvoort. Glock is your winner today. Dan the Man comes home in 2nd place. And Cam looks like he's going to come home for 3rd place. Strong result for him. Jovial Manatee's got the 3-second time penalty. And he's going to drop behind Jack Hickman. Yes, he does. Phil Bardrell going to come home in 6th place. And he's going to drop probably to about 7th, maybe 8th. He's dropped to 8th place, 9th place there, Phil Bardrell. Sean Combs home in 6th, the Confessor in 7th. Then we've got a few more drivers to come. We've got CJH just crossing the line now after that overly ambitious move. And Kieran, after all that, is only going to pick up 2 points. So another dent in his championship hopes, especially with his title rival finishing in 4th place. And he's spun again! And he's spun again. He's not even going to finish in the points at this rate. No, he's just got Mr. Chiapelli. Luckily, Mr. Chiapelli is the only other car behind him on the lead lap. So Kieran is going to come home and pick up a point. But a disastrous day for Kieran. and he's lost 11 points to his title rival in that one race. He's now going to be 22 back from Jack Hickey with only 5 rounds to go. So it's going to be a tall order for him as we just wait for him to come across the line now. Okay, right. He's come across the line eventually. That kind of sums up his day.
Yeah, I think we're very disappointed for him, and to be honest with yourself, I think that's probably game, set and match, barring any massive mistakes from Jack Hickey. 22 points you mentioned there. That's a huge margin to close up. I think there's 3 or 4 weeks left in TGP1 this season, so not that many races to turn it around.
Yeah, so we see Glock celebrating on the podium, picking up another race victory for himself this season, I believe. Let's just double check. Yeah, he picked up a victory in France, so that ruins the run of 8 different winners in 8 different races, unfortunately. But Dom will be happy he doesn't have to do another edit for that one, as Glock sprays the champagne on the podium as he is the winner here, round 15 of the season at Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. So here is your full rundown of the results. Glock is your race winner in that Williams. Started on pole, 1 stopped and won it from overtaking Dan the Man, who started in second. So the front row stayed as it was. Cam finished in 3rd place and Jack Hickman finished in 4th. Role reversal between those two. Jovial Manti finishes in 5th, so not really a lot of movement in the top 5. Sean finishes in 6th. Then we've got Confessor in 7th. Jordan in 8th, Phil Bardrell in 9th, and Aidan rounding out the top 10. Then Court in 11th, CJH in 12th, Mr. Chiapelli in 13th, and Kieran in 14th. And then we have Wet Lemons, the last of the finishers, in 15th. Dom Smith, Corey, Matt Tibos, and JD were your retirements from that Dutch Grand Prix. So that's race 1 of the night. We've still got another race to go, Softy.
I know, I was thinking, bloody hell, it's taking its time, I think. But I think the next race is going to be a lot more racy, let's say, rather than spinny. Monza, a lot of straights, very hard to pull away. Only way you're really going to pull away is if you've got a massive difference in pace to the car behind you, or they're making mistakes. So it's going to be very interesting. But that race, interesting, a lot of drama, a lot of spins, a few crashes. Unfortunate for Corey and Matt Tibos to both DNF, a double champion and a single champion previously. So unfortunate for them. Not really their season. Corey being, I think, part-time. So I don't think he's too bothered, to be honest, with his other leagues that he's in. Matt Tibos, I think, has probably just thought, well, I don't really care at this point. But good from Glock. This is what he should have been doing at the start of the season. If he's been, if he had this pace and consistency and lack of mistakes at the start of the season, he'd definitely be in this title fight. But unfortunately for him, I think it's definitely come too late. Dan the Man showing some good pace. Dan the Man can be a bit inconsistent at times. One race is fighting for wins, fighting for podiums. The next is probably P7, P8. So similar to the Jovial Manatee. So they need to probably sort that out for the next season on this game. Jack Hickey, is being consistent. This is one of the reasons why he is a champion. He may not always have the outright pace, similar to when he was fighting Glock for his title. It's not all about speed. If you're crashing and DNF and costing yourself points, it's not always about one thing. It's about a combination. So Jack Hickey's doing what he needs to, a decent margin now. Jean, P6 in that race, I think it was. Fair play to him. He is still using his controller. I know he's sort of bought himself a wheel, which he's getting used to this season. But John is just showing some decent pace at some rounds here. So not bad for himself. And it's looking to be a spicy end to the season. I think now that the field is getting closer and closer in terms of outright pace, and I think we're going to see it at this next race because it's such a hard circuit to pull away, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, that is going to be something to behold as we get ready for the second race of the night, the Italian Grand Prix, round 16 of the season, taking place at the Autodromo di Nazionale Monza in Italy. It's the home of Ferrari, so Dan the Man and Court will be hoping for a good result in this one in the Ferrari and hopefully do the Tifosi proud. Also, not too far away is the AlphaTauri base, so Jovial Manti hoping to put on a good performance as well. 3rd and 4th in the championship, Jovial Manti and Dan the Man. Speaking of the title, at the moment. Just doing some quick maths, and it is currently 226 points for Jack Hickman after that race and 205 for Kieran. So it is a 21-point gap with only 5 rounds to go. Make that actually fastest lap point for Kieran in that race as well. So make that 20 points, not 21.
Yes, and it looks actually a bit cloudy out there. It is dry, it looks like, but a bit cloudy there, so there may be a chance of rain potentially, either later on in the quali session or the race. And not a lot of people, I think, are wanting rain because you're running such low downforce anyway. But yeah, I mean, 20 points, still a huge gap. 5 races to go. If Kieran and Jack Hickey keep doing what they're doing with, how consistent they're both being in the sense of one finishing ahead one race, then the other finishing ahead the next race. It's definitely a big margin to close. We see Jean is the first one out here, and I think Jean did get pole position. I think was it last season or was it a season before that? Or a few seasons ago. It's one of them. So Jean has a bit of form around here. It's just a case of who can get their lap in. Such little downforce that the car through these corners, more so the middle sector, Ascari and Parabolica, very squirmish on the rear end. So I think they're gonna need to be a bit careful. I think some people may go slightly higher downforce by 1 or 2 clicks just to give them that stability. But with this circuit, realistically, you want to run as little downforce as you can, because the only overtaking spots are on the straights unless the person makes a mistake.
Yeah, they are indeed. So just following Sean as he's on his outlap. See if anyone else up near the front is on outlaps. We've got Kieran on outlap as well, going through the second chicane, the Variante del Rogia, as we see him head towards the Lesmo corners now. So I think he will be a good person to follow for a flying lap once he starts it. We've got Jack Hickman out on the circuit yet. No, we haven't. So yeah, I think he'll be the person to follow once he gets onto a flying lap for the first, probably truly competitive time in this session. The people that we expect to be fighting up the front of this field in this. So just get warming up the tyres, getting ready to go for his flying lap here. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, but he might be using that to his advantage during this session. I believe it will be the Confessor. Yes, it is.
It is, yes.
So take us through a lap of this Monza circuit, Softy, on board with Kieran.
So you want to try and get a good run out of here, up the gauge. Can't really do too much, but he's got that reference ahead, so he's going to get that slight slipstream. Not as powerful as again on this game. DRS wide open. You want to brake around, I'd probably say, the 60-metre board. Be very careful of locking your tyres. Brake in hard. There's a car ahead, so that may distract him. Avoid that curb. He actually rides it quite well, but then I think he actually got a bit caught out by the car ahead, so unfortunately didn't get the right apex on the left-hander through Curva Grande. You want to actually avoid touching the white line and the curb on there, because it can cost you a bit of time into this next corner, the second chicane. I'd say probably just about 110 metres. Avoid the inside curb. He actually takes quite a lot, so his setup's running quite well over those curbs into this next corner. You want to take a bit earlier of an apex like he has than you think you need to. Be careful of the curb on the left-hand side. 50-metre board, probably brake about 70. Avoid the curb too much on the left, because again it can unsettle the car. Doing what you can here, DRS wide open, and here we go then. Ascari, very easy to mess us up as John sets his first lap. Brake about 70 metres, ride all the inside, a bit of understeer there so we don't quite do it. Avoid the curb on the right, avoid the curb on the left. It will unsettle you, but he's actually closing in on the Confessor ever so slightly, so he's going to be getting that bit more of a slipstream. But here we go, final corner. You want to be braking, I'd probably say about 60 metres. Take a late apex, a bit of understeer there, but you can get on the power quite early and then bring it back to the right hand side for the shortest line, and even cut this white line slightly just so you've got that line. And he does a 20.1. I do think pole position, however, is going to be a low 19, so there's quite a big improvement there as Dan the Man does a 20.0 there, but yeah, I think pole position will be, I'd say at worst, or I'd be expecting it to be a low to mid 19 at worst. So we'll see how it is, of course, track conditions depending, as Corey sadly has actually retired at the middle sector, so not very good what he wants.
Yeah, as we're gonna ride with Jovial Manatee now. He's currently fourth in the championship going into tonight, or third. It's one of those positions. He's third. I just had to double check my cheat sheet there to make sure, as we see Jovial Manatee heads into the Scari for the first time in this session, and he looks pretty stable through that section, using a lot of curve there as well, Softy.
He did, yeah, and obviously a lot of it's setup dependent, really. You know, you can get a compliant car. A lot of it depends on your throttle application, your steering, of course. But yeah, it was quite good. It's not always the fastest one. It may look fast, but you know, when you're off board compared to when you're doing it yourself, it can be quite deceiving. But here we go. Then he cuts that line slightly, and he does go a 19.9. So we're getting a bit close to that you know, potential pole time. But yeah, Kieran at the minute is in P3 on I believe an in-lap, and he is, yeah. So not too bad for Kieran so far. Currently ahead of his championship rival.
And Cam's just got provisional pole with a 19.8 there. So the times are starting to tumble in this session. Who else have got on a flying lap? Glock just coming out the Parabolica. What's his lap time going to be? And I think he's heading. No, he isn't heading to the pits. So tricky to decipher, and he's gone to an 18.8 as well. So the early pace setters in this session are Glock and Cam, who were up there in the Netherlands, Softy.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, I think at the start of this season, before, you know, a wheel was turned at the first round, you know, I thought Glock and Cam were the, you know, the drivers, as well as Jack Hickey, were the you know, the two drivers to, you know, that I thought were going to be fighting, you know, giving a good run for the money for that title. But sadly, it, you know, again, with their lack of consistency, it hasn't turned out. But you know, it's showing that the pace is there, and you know, I think they're now getting used to this game a bit more and are able to sort of show what they're made of.
Of course, there's only one driver currently out on the track on a flying lap, and that's Phil Bardwell, just starting one in the Alpine, Softy.
Yeah, so Phil Bardwell not really had a season that I think he wants. I think him with, you know, the likes of Vaden probably not playing the game as much as they normally would. Other commitments of course, but Phil Bardwell has shown that he's got race winning mentality. He's a great teammate to have, as well as he actually rides a lot of the curb there. So it seems like a lot of these drivers are actually riding these curbs very well. You know, unlike myself. So yeah, and he goes a bit wide there, but not too bad. Again, wanting to avoid these curbs, as there is a yellow flag in sector 1. He actually, you know, doesn't even use all the track there for Phil Bardwell, so that will cost him time all the way down this straight. But currently, he's not got a lap time, so I think this will just be a banker. I think Phil does like to, you know, do what I did, just set a banker, just set a lap, whether it's good or not, and he's actually messed that up quite a lot. He's either going to complete this lap, or I reckon he's probably going to come into the pits this lap. As yeah, I think it's going to be probably one of the slower times, if not the slowest by the looks of it, and quite a lot of understeer.
Well, if he goes slowest, it'll be a 31.5, so I don't think it'll be the slowest, but he's coming across the line now, and he goes to a 21 dead, which puts him up into 11th place. Jake Davis is not showing for me. Oh, he's lost. No, he hasn't. He's run very wide on the exit of the Lesmo there.
And that's what I mean, it's very easy. These curbs, even with these setups that people are running, you can easily bottom the car ever so slightly. You get on the power and it spins you, and I think that's what happened to Corey, who ironically is Jake Davis's teammate. So very tentative through there. Doesn't look like he's got much confidence through these corners, and again, due to the low downforce, that is. But there has been a spinner, it seems. I think Wet Lemons has spun on the exit of that first corner. But yeah, JD then through this final corner. I can see his rear end is a bit lively, so I think he's not got that confidence. I think he's set up the car wrong, or at least he's not comfortable, but he does a 21.3 and goes P13 currently.
Yeah, so Kieran out on a flying lap. We're going to focus our attention towards the guys who have currently set lap times towards the front of the field. Kieran is the first one to go out for a second run as he goes through the Curva Grande and heads towards the second chicane. What's his sector time going to be? He's a tenth up on his previous best. So that would prove him a little bit. That would probably move him up maybe a position or two. As it stands, we'll have to see how the rest of this lap plays out as he goes through the second Lesmo, Softy.
Yeah, it's looking like he's ringing that neck. He's a tenth and a quarter up after that first sector, but how is he going to be coming into Ascari? You know, I think I always tense up when I come to Ascari, because I know, you know, you want to try and maximise the turn in, but it's so easy to corner cut, and he's a tenth and a half down now, so he's actually lost a bit of time through there. But yeah, currently P5, so it's not the end of the world. He is ahead of his championship rival Jack Hickey, who is in P7 there. But yeah, not too bad so far. I think 8 minutes to go. I think he's got another 2 runs in him. Quite nice there. Bit of understeer mid corner though, so that will push him out wide. But is he going to come into the pits, or is he going to finish? And he is coming into the pit, so he knows that this lap is not a good one.
Right, so Cam is just starting a lap. We've got Dan the man who's invalidated a lap as well, so there's only really Cam out the top lot on a flying lap. Glock's just warming up to start a flying lap as well, as Cam is coming through Curva Grande now.
Yeah, he's got a bit of traffic ahead of him, but that Mercedes gets nicely out of the way of the Confessor there. So Cam going into that second chicane, a quarter of a tenth up. He actually avoids that inside curve a lot more than a lot of the other drivers have. So maybe he's not got the confidence to ride it. It's a bit random, those curbs, so as the Ferrari does get out of the way. So not too bad. I think it would distract him ever so slightly with the cars ahead. DRS open then, coming into obviously the Ascari chicane. So we'll see if he is up on his time. He's only got, 10,000, so he's not improving at the minute, but it's so close between him and Glock, and he's actually messed that up completely. It looked like he didn't take much speed through there, so I do reckon that's probably his lap done and dusted, unless he made a mistake somewhere along the line in this final sector previously. But we'll stay with him. Nice little final corner there, a lot better than a lot of the other drivers are taking there. And is he going to come into the pits? He does, so he has aborted that.
Yeah, meanwhile, Glock is, apparently 4.5 temps down. I don't know how much I believe that. He's not using any ERS. So he's not using any ERS. Yep.
No.
So it's Jovial Manti is on a flying lap, I believe. Yes, he is. He's using ERS coming out of that corner. So let's see what he does. He's got the DRS wide open. He heads down towards Ascari under the old oval part of the track. And he goes through Ascari, and he's currently half a tenth up on
much better
his
through
previous.
The entry of Ascari as well.
Yeah, he is
a lot better than previous. So here we go then into this final corner. Very easy to do you nail a lap and then you ruin it all at this final corner. A bit of understeer there, but he takes that momentum through it. He's going to pull it back to the right hand side. Yes, he does. He's going to use all this right hand apron. He does, and he does improve to a 19.7. So this will be his second pole position if he does manage it, and he is looking a bit more comfortable. And I think he does prefer when the cars are a bit more lively. However, Dan the man then nearly 3 tenths up going into Ascari. He's getting a bit of a tow from his teammate. I think that is ahead of him. It is, and I think his teammate's going to move out of the way immediately, and yes, he does. 3 tenths, that's going to probably give him another half a tenth maybe through that final corner. I think this should be a pole position if he does nail it. Keeps to the right-hand side quite early, uses all the apron on the right-hand side, and is it going to go pole position? A 19.7, not quite. 1,000th in it.
Yeah, very close. And the Confessor's just gone pole with a 7.493. So 6 thousandths are currently covering the top 3 on the grid with 6 minutes to go in this qualifying session here at Monza. Is Jack Hickey on a lap? Yes, he is, as he goes through the Lesmo. Let's see how he compares as he goes through the second Lesmo this time. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. That might be his teammate. So it is his teammate. So tow games going on at Red Bull and Ferrari to help each other out. He's quite far back actually to get a tow. Yeah, he's backed out the lap.
Although Kai behind him, nearly 2 tenths up on his own time. Now it's a tenth going into that final sector. Quite good through Ascari there. So he's wringing that neck again. He needs to be careful though, because he's been doing that a lot this season. It's cost him a lot. So Kai currently P7. I think he will go ahead of Jack Hickey going on this lap if he does not make any mistakes.
Yeah, so round the Parabolica, what's Kai going to do? Currently down in P8 in this session. Can he improve on that and put himself further up the grid? Coming across the line now in the Alpine, he's put himself into P6. So
yeah, not bad from him there.
Yeah, we got Cam just building up to a flying lap. He aborted on that last run. 4 and a bit minutes to go in this session. And this will probably be his last run, maybe penultimate run. It's going to be very touch and go whether he gets 2 runs in from here, Softy.
Yeah, I think if he wants another run, I think he'll have to abort this lap if he doesn't feel like he's going to improve. And to be honest, I probably would if I know I'm not going to improve or it's a small gain. I'd abort it, get a brand new fresh set of tyres to ensure you've got the maximum grip. But we'll see how he does on this lap. Currently P5, only about a tenth off his 7,000th lap. He rides a lot of that curb this time. Bit of oversteer riding over it, so that may actually cost him a bit of time, but sometimes you can get away with it. A lot of the esports guys on PC do say that he's actually run wide and he's actually validated there, so unfortunate for him. So he'll probably abort this lap, get in for one more lap if he's got the tyres.
Yeah, so I think Aiden is the only car actually out on a flying lap at this current time in that Red Bull. Currently,
he's not using any ERS.
No, he isn't. So no one is out on a flying lap. So we've hit a bit of a lull in the session as people are getting ready to go for their final runs. Mr. Chiapelli, I think, is going to be the first guy to start a flying lap in this final batch of runs. He's going to have Dom Smith right behind him in the Mercedes, and Cam, I think, making his way back to the pit lane as well.
Yeah, so Dom Smith at the minute, currently P11, so not too bad for him. He's, faster than a few of the drivers. I think a few drivers that can probably improve is definitely Jean and Phil in P14 and 15. But Dom Smith, Mr. Chiapelli, good friends. I don't think Mr. Chiapelli will be too happy as Dom actually runs completely wide, so he's outbroke himself there. So that's his lap ruined. But yeah, good friends these two. But I'm sure Mr. Chiapelli probably wouldn't have liked him to be that close behind him to distract him. But yeah, he's not got that issue anymore.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't have liked him to be that close behind him, starting a flying lap. Chiapelli, the only driver out on a flying lap at this current time as he heads towards the first Lesmo. Had a decent first sector from him, but it's not anything to write home about. Not going to be challenging those guys right at the top of the field. But it is very close, this field, though. As you can see, the top 8 are covered by, 3 tenths, pretty much, the top 8. So It's so close. Any one of those top 8 could take pole position in this session, Softy.
And that's the thing, it's Monza, it's a very simple circuit, and because everyone is running basically, I'd say, the same setup. A lot of these drivers do just take time trial setups and I think just adjust the tyre pressures, which, to be honest, I don't blame them. End of the day, if you've got a good setup that you can see, you may as well take it, sort of thing. But yeah, so they're all running relatively the same setups, and specifically the wings as well. A lot of them will be running 0-0, 1-0, 2-0. I'd probably say wouldn't be any more than 2. So it's going to be, and again, this is what I mean, it's going to be very difficult for them to pull away from each other, barring any mistakes.
So we see Jack Hickey in the Red Bull. He's going to be the first of those guys up the front of the field to go for a flying lap. This is going to take a lot of keeping up, but Jack Hickey is the first of those guys to start a flying lap as he heads into the first chicane, the Variante del Rettifilo, for the final time in this qualifying session, and heads round the Curva Grande. Sector 1 line is just before the second chicane at the Variante del Roggio. So let's see what his sector time is as he comes across, and he's 300ths up on his previous best as he goes through that chicane, and that was nicely done there, Softy.
It was, yeah. He avoided that inside curb. I think some people prefer to ride over it and risk it. Some people prefer to avoid it completely, and I'd say that attacking it over the curb is probably quicker if it doesn't spit you out, of course. But I think on this game, before it was patched, 60 FPS, you could ride over curves with no effect, whereas if you run more FPS, you can't. So, but I think that's supposedly patched. So, but he did it nice. Nothing to write home about in that sense. But he's got a bit of traffic ahead of him. Is he going to get out of the way of the hash? Yes, he does. Probably a bit of a distraction there. But into this final corner, 60-metre board, take an earlier apex than you think, because it does open up on the exit. Bit of understeer as a lot of drivers have. Bring it to the inside, and is he going to improve? I think he should do. I think it's going to be a mid-19. There we go, a 19.7, nearly 19.8. So currently ahead of his championship rival.
Yeah, as we see just where everyone is on the circuit, Dan the Man is coming through the Parabolica, just starting a flying lap. Jovial Manti's on a flying lap. The Confessor hasn't started one yet. So I think the furthest car up the road is Kieran in 7th place. So as he heads round onto the back straight for the final time in this session, just coming under the old oval circuit now that they haven't used since the 60s, and heading towards Ascari. He's currently a 10th and a 3rd up on his previous best lap, so that will put him in a little bit of improvement. That'll probably put him up to about 4th, 5th. He needs to find a bit more time if he's going to challenge for that pole position, though, as he heads towards the Parabolica. Aidan has bailed out of his final lap, so that is his qualifying session done. So Kieran coming around the Parabolica for the final time in this qualifying session. Is he going to improve, and where does he improve to? He's improved to pole. He's gone to pole. Cam, just the next car across the line. What's he going to do in the McLaren? Jack Hickey is done in this qualifying session. Cam goes to pole. Let's go with Glock next. He's coming around the Parabolica. What's he going to do? He's bailed out. Jack Hickey bailed out. Dan the Man
and Glock's out. Glock's out, so that's not improving.
Yes, Glock's out, Confessor's out, so it's only up to Dan the Man to see if he can knock Cam off this pole position here at Monza.
Doesn't look like he's going to do it,
though. Go round Parabolica for the final time. Let's see what he does. Coming round the Parabolica, going up the gears, one last push towards the line, and he's going to cross the line, and he goes pole.
He goes pole. Fair play. So, he must have ruined that lap previously then, because he was about a quarter of a tenth down on his own lap going into that final sector.
Yeah, it was indeed. Just seeing if anyone else is on a flying lap. Wet Lemons bails to the pits. No, that is your qualifying order. So Dan the Man in front of the Tifosi in that Ferrari picks up pole position for Ferrari, and that is a performance he'll be proud of. But the times kept coming, everyone was going, knocking each other off left, right and centre. It was literally last car on the circuit, ended up taking pole position there, Softy.
Yeah, I think on this game, the track evolution is a lot more than previous. I think previous games, maybe you could gain half a tenth to a tenth with track evolution if you were one of the last cars out. But on this game, I definitely think there's more of an evolution, probably about three tenths. I'll probably say a push for that track evolution. But fair play to Dan. He did what he needed to. He didn't have a tow from anyone. He just did it, and obviously he improved. Whereas the likes of the Confessor, I think, sort of. Were pushing a bit too hard. They weren't able to improve, and the Confessor did crash on his lap. So Dan the man, and New Zealand Cam as the front row, and a very close front row.
So here is your full qualifying rundown. Dan the man in the Ferrari on pole position by 18 thousandths over Cam in the McLaren. Kieran is in third in the Alpine, and the Confessor is in fourth. Jovial Mansi in fifth place. Jack Hickey in sixth. Glock in seventh, and Aiden in eighth. Then we've got Matt Tibos in ninth. Strong qualifying from him, from the former TGP1 champion. Then we've got Sean in 10th, CJH in 11th, Mr. Chiapelli in 12th, Court in 13th, and Phil Bardrell rounding out the top 14. Then we've had Dom Smith in 15th, Wet Lemons in 16th, Jake Davis in 17th, Corey down in 18th, and Jordan starting from last. So, getting ready to go for round 16 of the season. What are your thoughts going into this race, Softy?
I think it's going to be chaos at turn one, naturally at Monza, because there's so many cars trying to go into it. I think it should be a very close race because of how difficult it is to pull away and everyone running the same sort of setups. I think this one's going to. I probably think we're going to see quite a few spins, potentially, or half spins because of the lack of downforce. So, I think it's going to be an interesting race. It is dry. It doesn't look like there's any chance of rain by the looks of the sky, but I think a lot of people will be thanking God for that one. So yeah, it should be interesting. It's going to be a tough one for a lot of these drivers. I think we may see a few surprises potentially as well. Yeah.
We will. So the final preparations are taking place, ready to go for round 16 of the season here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. And the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights are on here at Monza. And the lights will go out any second now, and they have indeed. Dan the man getting a strong start, and Jovial Mansi once again getting a really good start in the AlphaTauri. Dan the man slots into first, Cam slotted in behind, but Jovial Mansi's going to try and go round the outside of him into the right affiliate for the first time in this race. A bit of bumping and banging further back. Cam has lost out massively, getting all chaos behind. Glock has got a 3-second time penalty already, and Dan the man's laughing to a 1.8 second lead, 1.9 second lead, as they're all knocking 7 bells out of each other further back. The Confessor is in second place. CHAH is up into third. Jovial Mansi down into fourth. Jack Hickey have managed to avoid all the carnage at turn one, and there's a bit more bumping and banging. Confessor's been nerfed off there by CJH, and CJH is already up into P2, but Dan the man laughing up the front of the field. 2.5 seconds lead, and he's gone already.
P18. Kieran is down in P18, so he got a bit of a bash. I actually think, I don't know if it was, but I actually think it was the Confessor that caused a bit of that carnage, because I think he actually swiped into the side of one of the cars by being a bit too aggressive. But yeah, Kai down in P17 at the minute, and he's on the softs while he's championship rival P5. So not a good start for him once again. He can't seem to do these starts, or he gets a bit of bad luck at those starts.
Well, Kieran will probably switch to his now common strategy when he has a bad start, and that is pit lap one and go to the end of this race. That is probably what his plan is from now on. But Dan the man is laughing up the front of the field, already out to a 2-second lead, and he's already broken the DRS of the cars behind, so he's very much in the prime position as it stands, Softy.
Yeah, and Jack Hickey then under attack by VFR Glock, who's up the inside, and that is into P5, although Glock has run wide, so he nearly cut that corner and he thought about it, so a bit of contact there between them, but Jack Hickey is right back, and John not far behind is thinking of probably attacking Glock at this minute. But yeah, Glock already does have a corner cut penalty, unfortunately, I think, for that turn one sort of melee with a few drivers, so I think Glock's probably not going to win unless that penalty gets taken off him and he wins the race on circuit. So it's going to be a difficult race for him, sadly.
Yeah, and as mentioned, Kieran has pitted at the end of lap one. His common strategy when he doesn't have a great start to the race, he's pitted and going to the mediums to the end of the race. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for him as the race progresses. But we've got an almighty scrap forming for P4 on the road, P5 on the road, shall we say. But it's definitely getting closer, and there's a lot of dicing in that middle pack between Mr. Chiapelli, 9th, 10th and 11th, pretty much line to stern, going through Ascari. It's all getting very tight between that lot.
Yeah, and it will. This is what I'm referring to. It's so hard to pull away. As soon as you overtake someone, chances are the next straight they're probably going to attack you and overtake. As Matt Tibos is thinking about going around the outside of Mr. Chiapelli, but not quite. As Phil Bardwell's thinking about going up the inside of of Matt Tibos actually. So it's quite close between these DRSs now enabled. So that's going to be useful. But it looks like Phil Bardwell's got either no straight line speed or the cars ahead of him are using a bit more ERS. But I think it's just Phil Bardwell's running too much downforce, so I don't think he could live with 0-0 wins, it seems, as Corey has either disconnected or rage quit.
Yeah, as we see the Confessor getting closer and closer to the back of CJH. CJH going very defensive. The Confessor goes to the outside into the Varianti Del Roger, and the CJH just about hangs on for the time being as they head towards the Lesmos, but it's getting very tight in this battle as the Confessor on the medium tyres compared to CJH's soft is starting to claw in on this race.
He is, yeah, and the CJH is running a lot less, or has got a lot less ERS as well than the Confessor, so I think it's going to be relatively short work, the fact that he's not got a slipstream ahead and actually Dan Leman's got a 2.8 second lead, so the Confessor is on a better strategy, medium to soft, while Dan Leman's going to be soft to medium. I don't think it's a massive difference round here, to be honest, because it's such a simple circuit. I think probably about 5/10, but you can easily make that up for in the race if you're running a bit less downforce to make it hard. But yeah, the Confessor I think will get CJH into turn one if he doesn't understeer too much by the looks of it. But yeah, I think he's going to use a lot of his ERS now.
Yeah, he is. There's going to be DRS and there's going to be ERS used by the Confessor as he looks to make a move. Glock is also getting closer and closer to the back of Jack Hickman. As the Confessor looking to a move down the inside at the Retofilio chicane. They're side by side, a little bit of wheel banging on the exit, and CJH has actually put him into the gravel. Jovial Manti's thinking, thank you very much, I'm going to go up into third place. The Confessor's down to fourth, down to fifth. Yeah, and everyone's getting very spicy around the Confessor. It's almost 3 wide heading towards the second chicane. Jack Hickey just about hanging on for the time being as we see a bit of contact behind. Yeah, contact behind from the Confessor, and he's pushed Jack Hickey, but what is going on there? It's all a bit tasty. I think the Confessor's trying to
He needs to give that place, yeah, I think it's cost him. I think he needs to actually give that place back to Jack Hickey. So that's 2 places he needs to lose. But yeah, he completely cut that corner. He actually outbroke himself, went straight across the chicane, and he's actually not giving that place back by the looks of it. So I think that is going to be a post-race penalty if he doesn't. So that's 2 places he should realistically give back because he was behind both of those cars going into that chicane, or at least alongside Glock. But so yeah.
Yeah, so we see the Confessor now it down into 4th place. He had a bit of argy-bargy with CJH. CJH getting the elbows out very much indeed. We've heard about his aggression from other drivers, and once again he's showed it there. Jack Hickey peeling into the pit lane, and he's going to go onto those medium tyres. Jovial Manti looking for a move round the outside of CJH, gets the position done. He's up into P2.
And Glock on the Confessor.
The Glock on the Confessor as well, yes. As we see that the Confessor getting a bit squirrely on the exit. Glock and Confessor side by side going through Curva Grande.
Yeah, and there's a yellow flag, and Wet Lemons has had retired in that middle sector, but I don't think Glock will be too happy. I'm sure the likes of Jack Hickey probably won't be too happy either, but Jack Hickey has pitted, and he's apparently still in the pits. No, he just came out of the pits, so he's actually got clear hairs, Jack Hickey, so maybe the stewards, if it does get reported, may not give the Confessor a penalty because Jack Hickey and VFL Glock has spun. VFL Glock has spun, and he did exactly what I said he was going to do, or that's easy to do, is get a bit too much on that exit curb and it will spin you around. So unfortunate for Glock. So I think the Confessor may potentially get away with that because Jack Hickey pitted and Glock has spun. So yeah, he's quite lucky if that is the case.
Yeah, meanwhile, CJH is starting to lose a bit of ground on Jovial Manti. Jovial Manti flying past him the last lap. He's still in DRS though, CJH. Let's see what he can do as we see Dan the Man peeling into the pit lane from the lead of this Grand Prix. Had quite a comfortable lead, but can CJH do anything? I don't think he can. I don't think he's got pace. The slate. Yeah, he just hasn't got the straight line speed that Jovial Manti has, unfortunately for him. And it's all kind of stacking up further back as we see the Confessor getting closer and closer to the back of CJH himself now on those medium tyres.
It's going to be an easy run by the looks of it.
It is indeed. as we see him on those medium tyres looking to the outside. How defensive does the Williams go? He goes fairly defensive, barely leaving the car's width, parking that car in the middle of the road there. It's making it very difficult for the Confessor to make a move. He's not really going to have any opportunity into the Lesmo, so he's going to have to wait for that run down to Ascari corner.
Yeah, and obviously Don Smith has retired in the pits by the look of it, but yeah, the Confessor then does look to have the legs on CJH on the straights at least, but CJH does appear to be running a bit too much downforce that Jovial Manatee is just pulling away from him as well as having to go defensive. But CJH is on 10% ERS, so not what you want around here because they're all straight. So if you're going about 10 mile an hour less on the straights because you're derating, you've got no hope. So I think CJH is going to probably drop like a stone for the remainder of this race, and we only are halfway through this race, just under halfway, so I think it's going to be quite painful for him being in such a good position. As Jovial Manatee, CJ both pit as the Confessor, as Jack Hickey has got a penalty, so unfortunate for him there. That's not what he wanted, but yeah, the Confessor does continue in clean air.
Yeah, he does indeed. Just looking at where Cam and Court getting closer and closer to each other. Cam on those medium tyres, got to make a move potentially round the outside of Court, going through the Retafilio chicane, gives Court just enough space on the inside, swill banging through the corner. Court manages to keep it round the outside of the second part of the Retafilio and keep the position for the time being. As we see further down the field, where did Dan the Man rejoin the race? He rejoined quite comfortably in 8th place, and I think that's really the only battle properly on this circuit at the moment, is this battle between Cam and Court for 5th place.
Yeah, I think Jack Hickey is closing in on CJH and Jovial Manatee, while Kai is right behind him, but Jack Hickey does have that penalty, so at the minute Kai will actually jump Jack Hickey if it ended with this position. So yeah, I think Jack Hickey's probably going to lose points to Kieran unless anything else happens, or Kieran wins it again. So yeah, it's going to be one for one, I'd say, yet again, as Mr. Chip Elliott did retire and leave. I actually think he crashed on the exit of the final corner.
And Court's binned it.
Retired the Ascari even on the exit. Yep.
Yeah, lost it. Must have clipped the curb on the exit of the final part of Ascari. Very easy to do, like you just said. And yeah, you can see where the cars ended up there, right in the far wall. And that is the end of Court's race, and he was having a solid performance there. Meanwhile, this battling is brewing.
He's gone hard, the Confessor has, I believe.
Has he? I'll just have a quick
look. He's gone hard, so that's a mistake for him.
Yeah, that is a mistake for the Confessor. Let's see where he filters out. Dan the Man recycled back to the lead of the race almost. Just got Jake Davis and Jordan to pit. And there you can see Aiden coming out of the pit. The Confessor's going to be side by side with CJH coming out. It's all going to get very dicey on this exit. Jovial Manatee is going to be there. CJH is going to get him. So is Jack Hickey, and he's going to go round the outside of him through Curva Grande. They're going to be side by side through Curva Grande. The Mercedes and the Red Bull almost wheel banging, and they're getting closer and closer to the back of CJH as well. Let's see what the Confessors do. He's on those cold tyres, and he just about hangs it round the outside for the time being. But it's all getting very tasty as we see Jack Hickey looking to the inside of the Lesmo corner. Can he get the move done on the Confessor? They're still side by side, and the Confessor is still there round the outside. He's going to have to give way at the second Lesmo. Yes, he does, and that means Jack Hickman is there. But the Confessor is going to switch back on the exit. Going to have the DRS. They both got DRS, but the Confessor's getting closer and closer to the back of that Red Bull. Is he going to dive up the inside at Ascari corner? They're going to be side by side. He pushes him slightly wide, and the Confessor gets back into P7 on those hard tyres, but surely he's going to be struggling towards the end of this race. Jack Hickey has now got himself his teammate all over the back of him, who's defending from Kieran, and now it's all livened up, Softy, as you see Kieran round the outside of the Parabolica, just about holding on for the time being.
Yeah, obviously Kieran is faster than Aiden naturally on this game, so this is what I mean. No one can pull away, and here we go. Kieran is thinking about going as actually.
Meanwhile, sorry, the other
Bardwell.
Alpine of Phil Bardwell is actually flying past the pair of them up the inside. That Alpine of Phil Bardwell, is he going to make the move stick? Kieran forced to the outside. They're 3 wide through the Retafilio. That's never going to work, and Kieran's definitely lost out. But Phil Bardwell in that Alpine kind of mugged his own teammate off, and Aiden, and Matt Timmos has stuck past as well. Kieran's had a bit of a nightmare, a few corners there. Come from battling to 8th, he's already down in 11th place.
Is on 0% ERS as well, and he's actually spun. He's done a Lewis Hamilton from 2010 with the Ferrari. He tried to hold it round on the inside, and he's rage quit. Kieran is, no, that's just being a sore loser, mate. Don't do that. He knew he made a mistake. He tried to keep it on the inside, rode over the curb. That understeered him into the side of Matt Tibos, and it spun him. So, you've got no one to blame other than yourself. And yeah, he's clearly rage quit. That's quite obvious. So, I don't want to sort of cause blame as such on it, but that's not a winning mentality. You've got to accept when you're in the wrong. You've got to accept when you've made a mistake. And yeah, that's definitely, I think, the title, barring any major incidents for Jack Hickey, done and dusted as VFR Glock has just overtaken JD, who is in the pits.
Yeah, CJH looking all over the back of Jovial Mansi. Is he going to make a move into the chicane? No, he isn't. And the Confessor on those hard tyres is actually getting closer and closer to the back of this battle. This train is definitely forming behind Jovial Mansi in that Alpha Tauri, and it's all getting very nice. Glock is in second place. I'm guessing he's yet to stop. No, he hasn't stopped. Okay, that makes more sense now.
I think earlier.
No, he hasn't. I've just had a look, Softy. Okay. No, Glock has not stopped. He had that spin earlier, of course, and he hasn't stopped from that yet. Phil Bardrell's picked up a penalty, unfortunately for him, after carving his way through the field like butter. He's got himself a penalty, unfortunately, so that could cost him towards the end of this race. As we see, CJH once again getting closer to the back of Jovial Mansi. VFR Glock is in, and Matt Tibos is DNFing from the race. As exit of the Lesmo corner, he's down and out of this Grand Prix. CJH getting closer and closer. Confessor all over the back of him. It's a 3-car battle for a net P2 in this race, as Glock is due to pit at some point in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's very close between Jovial Mansi, CJ and the Confessor. Again, CJH not quite having that straight line speed, so I think, yeah, he gets close in the corners, but he's not going to do anything on the straights, and that's the only place really to overtake. So, as we can see, Jovial Mansi is actually pulling away ever so slightly, but I think he's actually using all of his errs.
Oh, so, this is getting very tasty now. It could be 3 wide into the Retafilio. The Confessor down the inside, he's going to go for an ambitious move. CJH just about hangs on for the time being, keeps the position, and he gets up onto a net P2. The Confessor passes Jovial Mansi as well, and Phil Bardrell's looking very feisty in that Alpine as well, all over the back of Jack Hickman in the Alpine, in the Red Bull in front of him. Jack Hickman going defensive, worried about what Phil Bardrell's going to do in this Grand Prix, and we've got this line of train third all the way down to 8th place. This is for a battle for net P2, Softy.
It is, yeah, and again, Monza, it's hard to pull away. I think if he can pull away, although saying that, even though the gap at the front is only 8/10, sadly for Glock, he has that penalty. So if it weren't for that, it would have been a very good battle for the lead as well. But yeah, it's a good battle. I think the Confessor is looking on CJ again, but for some reason the Confessor just hasn't been able to, as CJ goes wide there, and that's probably going to be a warning for him. But yeah, the Confessor then somehow still not been able to overtake and pull away from CJH, even though CJH has got a bit less errs, as he actually drops back behind him, I think, to get the DRS into turn 1.
Yeah, he has. He's let the Confessor go. He's doing the Charles Leclerc tactic from Saudi Arabia. Is it going to work for him? He hasn't really shown much straight line speed, though, so I think that might have been a mistake there by CJH. And look at him. He's actually really struggling to get closer and closer to the back of the Confessor. He'll have to go for a dive from miles back, and he's not going to be close enough. It gives the Confessor a little nudge through the Retafilio chicane, but the Confessor is through, and I think that'll be done there, Softy.
Yeah, I think I can understand why he did it, because he's thinking, well, I know I'm going to get overtaken into turn 1 anyway. But I think that's the downside on this game, because the slipstream's not that powerful, and neither is DRS. If you run more downforce than someone, especially at a circuit like this, you're in a no-win situation in many ways. So he tried something different, it didn't work. I don't blame him for that, to be honest.
Yeah, so the Confessor is the lead of this queue now of the 2nd down to 7th place battle. The closest cars together in this battle are actually Phil Bardrell and Jack Hickey, but Phil Bardrell, I think, has dropped back slightly as we've gone down the straight line. I think Phil Bardrell is actually really struggling in the straight line compared to the others in this queue, and I think that's why he's struggling to advance. And he's had a bit of a slide coming through Ascari as well to make his matters even worse. And he's going to have Aiden all over the back of him coming out the exit of the Parabolica, most likely.
Yeah, although I think Aiden's probably got a bit of lack of straight line speed as well as Phil, so Aiden just doesn't seem to be able to get close enough, and Aiden's got less than 10% errs while Phil's got 30, so that's probably why as soon as you get below that 10% you lose a fair amount of miles an hour.
Jack Hickey looking to the inside of the Retafilio. Is he going to make the move stick on Jovial Mansi? Yes, he does. Yeah, And CJH looks like he's really struggling up the road there on those mediums in that Williams. He's lost out to the Confessor, and now he's going to have Jack Hickman, championship elect, the way it's looking at the moment, all over the back of him on the final lap of the race. I didn't even realise it was the final lap of the race. It's been that action-packed this second half of the race. As Jack Hickey, I think he's going to run out of time to get himself onto this podium.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, but no scoring. It does have that penalty as well, so he's actually going to probably drop about 2 or 3 places. Is Jack Hickey, because only the person behind him has got a penalty as well is Phil Bardwell, and it's pretty close between these guys. But
Aiden looking to the inside of Phil Bardwell at the chicane. No, he's not going to quite make a move. Yeah, a bit of a love tap, but we're going to have to go to the front of the field. We've not spoken about him since lap number 1, but Dan the Man, rounding the Parabolica for the final time in this race. He avoided all the chaos at the start, and he's going to win round 16 of the season, the Italian Grand Prix, in front of the Tifosi. Dan the Man wins the Italian Grand Prix. The Confessor is going to come home in second place. CJH is in third. Jack Hickey comes across the line in fourth, but we'll see where everyone shuffles out after all of that. And he shuffles down to 6th place. So it's Jovial Manti in 4th. Then we've got Aiden in 5th. Jack Hickey in 6th. Cam comes home in 7th place. Then we've got Sean, Jake Davis. Phil Bardwell must have had a lot of penalties at the end of that race. Because he was in that battle. Yeah, he was in that battle for P2. And he's ended up finishing 11th. How have you done that, Phil?
It's close. As soon as you get 1 or 2 penalties, because it is so close, you're running the risk of really, ruining your own race just by how close everyone finishes.
So Dan the Man coming onto the podium to celebrate in front of the Tifosi. He's done what Charles Leclerc did in 2019, win in front of the Ferrari faithful here at the Italian Grand Prix. You can see the fans under the stands ready to celebrate this victory, and it's a big victory for Dan the Man in his battle for 3rd place in the championship with Jovial Manatee. So spraying the champagne, him, the Confessor, and CJH, a strong performance from him, getting himself up into 3rd and picking up a podium for himself. So here is a full rundown of the results. Dan the Man is your race victor today here in front of the Tifosi. Started from pole, avoided all the chaos at the start, and takes home the 25 points. The Confessor will finish in 2nd, and CJH is in 3rd, rounding out the podium. Jovial Manti is in 4th, Aiden is in 5th, then we've got Jack Hickey in 6th, extending his championship lead by another 9 points, which by my calculations means he's leading the championship with 29 points, by 29 points after tonight. Cam is in 7th, then we've got Sean in 8th. Jake Davis in 9th, and Jordan rounds out the top 10. Phil Bardwell, with all those penalties, he finishes down in 11th place. I wish it would show me. He had 2 6-second penalties. He had 2 3-second penalties. Glock is in 12th, Corey in 13th, the last of the finishers, and Matt Tibos will round out the points. Disappointing day for Kieran. He's finished down in 15th. DNFing from this race, and that is surely his title hopes in tatters. So, Softy, thoughts on those 2 races?
Fantastic. First race, bit hard because it's a hard circuit to battle on. Monza, exactly as I said, I think there was going to be some surprises, as there was going to be a lot of spins, a few crashes, and race-long trains. So I will take credit for all of that. So it's been 2 good races tonight. It's been as expected, typical for TGP1. Some close racing, some hard racing. It's been fantastic, and I do look forward to what we've got in store next week.
Yes, so we've got next week, we've got Japan and USA, we've got Suzuka and the Circuit of the Americas for rounds 17 and 18. It's getting towards crunch time in this TGP1 championship. 29 points is the gap that Jack Hickman leads with 4 rounds to go. But that is that from tonight. A scintillating and tense race in Netherlands and balls to the wall excitement in Italy. But thank you for watching these races, and we will see you next time out in TGP1.